Welcome to My Pods Podcast. I'm Dr. Joe Schneider, and after 35 years as a functional neurologist, a personal journey through stroke recovery, and helping thousands of patients, I'm here to share breakthrough solutions for POTS and neurological wellness. From getting out of bed in the morning to rebuilding your nervous system, this is your guide to understanding and overcoming neurological challenges. Let's begin this journey to recovery together.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's the afternoon. We usually do these in the morning, so it's a little weird.
Yeah.
So today's podcast, we're going to do some questions, question and answers, a question and answer. So we'll think that we have like 500 guests here just blasting us with questions.
Yeah, just raising hands.
Okay,
In the
you
audience.
got it. All right, so the first question is,
But yeah, really, I mean, a lot of our posts get a lot of, questions, and a lot of people are looking for answers, and we have this platform to be able to supply them any kind of answers that they may be looking for, or at least give them some um, grounds on what could be going on. So first question, I mean, more of a statement, is that POTS and dysautonomia, are they similar, and are they the same, or are they different? What are their differences?
well, POTS and dysautonomia are basically the same. POTS is the cardiovascular and respiratory end of dysautonomia. So if you have dysautonomia, you have subcategories. POTS is a subcategory of dysautonomia. And then
So
digestive system.
does one affect blood pressure more so than the other, or they kind of affect blood pressure and oxygen stores the same way?
Well, we're trying to find like some classical patterns, right? But there is none. Have you seen any classical patterns with the patients?
Every case is so different.
It's so different, right? So, you think you're going to predict, where a case is going to go. But the only thing you can predict is test, treat, and then retest, see if you're going in the right direction. Now, we do have exercise with oxygen, and it's a tremendous ability to look at heart rate, oxygen, and see what directions they're going. And even when a person hits fatigue, so we're getting a lot of patients that hit fatigue when they start really quickly, and then as they go through treatment, then their aerobic capacity and their anaerobic capacity go up.
Now, is that just autonomic fatigue, or is that central fatigue, brain fatigue as well?
It's not just autonomic, you're right. So it's not just all autonomic or musculoskeletal. The brain system goes right along with it because each cell in your body has its own mechanisms for lactic acid. The first part of your ATP production is lactic acid, and the second is the Krebs cycle where you produce more ATP. So I forget what lactic acid cycle produces how many ATP, like 5 or something like that,
Mm.
and then 36 in the Krebs cycle. So, we have to look at patients metabolically and look at body inflammation, how it's affecting them. And, a lot of people today have metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes, sugar handling problems, right?
Yeah.
And most times people are eating like really bad food.
Yeah.
Just bad food.
I mean, there's options out there to eat better, but when it comes down to the cost of everything now, trying to find that efficient equilibrium between what, isn't crazy expensive and what is still good for you to consume is it's hard, but you put enough time and thought into it, you can do it.
It's hard, but not impossible.
Right.
The only problem if you're busy professionals like we are,
Mm.
right, and you go to school at the same time, right, and I'm always learning something. You get home and you're like, well, I don't want to make that salad. I don't want to really make that, pasture-raised steak. So I'll call out for something, and the quality that you call out for delivery, it's not there. It's just not, and it tastes different too, right? Um, so it is doable, but to really do it like all the time. There's not a lot of supports out there, like from restaurants and supermarkets and things like that. They're going to keep you right in the path of being healthy all the time with your eating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to ask the question is, we know that exercise is so important to the process, right?
Yeah.
And so you're at gyms all the time.
Yep.
Okay. What are the most common mistakes people are making when they go to the gym?
Dehydration. If you're not consuming enough water throughout your workout, I would say overexertion. People who are putting too much of their energy expenditure out there and they're just wiping themselves out. I mean, it's one thing to train to fatigue, it's another thing to train to exhaustion.
Exhaustion, right. So there's definitely a fine line with that,
Mhm.
right? What about when a person comes to the gym and they try to get the workout through really quickly, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't have good technique and they don't have good breathing,
Yep.
and then things break down that way.
hmm
So, everybody can be going to gyms, but they're just not doing it right. So, doing it right is important. The mixture of aerobic to anaerobic type of workouts is also different too, right?
Yep.
And they got to be spaced really well. So that's where your doctors come in, right? And exercise specialists come in to really guide you to do things the right way. Now, we've talked about, people that decide that they want to accomplish a marathon, right?
Yeah.
Or they want to do 75 hard.
hmm
So, how many people, what percentage would you say drop out from training for a marathon?
Oh, I would think over 50%,
Over 50%.
65%.
Yeah, you did 75 hard.
I did.
It was hard.
It was, yeah. And
So, how many people drop out with that?
I would think probably the same percentage, or not so much drop out, but cheat their way through it.
Okay.
And
so, what happened to you? What was your experience with it?
it was rigorous. I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely tough, and I've had a very extensive fitness background. I've been in the gym since I was 16 years old, but this was different. I had to wake up every morning pretty early. I had to decide on what kind of outdoor exercise I wanted to do. Got a weighted vest, so I started training with just walking with a weighted vest, which segued into sprinting with the weighted vest each morning for 45 minutes. And that I would say was the most exhausting portion of it, because I think that, I was progressively building myself to that level, but at the same time, I didn't want to just walk with the weighted vest anymore. So I wanted to run. And like right then and there, I knew that I was just really wiping myself out. So I took a step back, dropped the weighted vest for a little bit, started to just, start with a jog, run, build up, my overall energy, and really start to do other things that would help with bringing more things together. So like jump rope for coordination, and really great for autonomic activity as well, as long as you're able to do it, and great for respiratory functioning. So I got really into jump roping during that time period, which is kind of funny. Never really thought I'd get into that, but I love it now. And there's not a day that goes by without it. And yeah, I pushed myself a lot with progressive overloading, but I made sure that I wasn't completely exhausted at the end of the day. I made sure that I was fatigued, neuromuscular fatigue, and but I didn't go until complete exhaustion, where the next day I was going to be completely wiped and not be able to work or be able to do anything.
Right, exactly. Well, when you treat brain injury, the biggest part of treating brain injury is that fatigue. So, I'm finding that, getting my workouts in can be really, very hard, because if I work a hard day and then I go home and I'm going to do like a workout, I don't have the energy to do it, so it can be very difficult, but I'm on a good realm right now, and I'm moving forward. But patients that have like a paralyzed limb or something like that, it's like hard, right? Because you can't go to the gym. There's not a lot of facilities that really can help you exercise on your own. And so that becomes very difficult to tell people how to exercise
Mhm.
and what they need to do and how to do it and can they tolerate it because they can get really, really tired from it. They get really tired from it.
But the rehabs and the physical therapists out there, they're really good at what they're doing with it. But when it comes to the brain health aspect of it, you're only going to get so far with that, rehabilitation and that development.
Yeah, well, you need to do both. That's true. But what I'm saying is, what I worry about with patients is that when they don't have any more PT visits, right, and they don't have any more visits here, that
They let it go.
they let it go, right? And then it's the spouse that nags them all the time, and then they can't really do it, and they're like, "Well, you're supposed to do it," and it can ruin relationships around that issue too. So the basics are diet, exercise, and stress management. I mean, they're the basics for lifestyle, and lifestyle is important. But to get it all in, it can be pretty difficult. So maybe even light to moderate exercise is beneficial, and then people don't have to do like moderate to heavy exercise unless they're training for something. Now, you said that 50% of the people that start marathon training probably drop out. Okay. So the common thing would be um, they may hurt knee, ankle issues, right? Back issues. They may develop like headaches and things like that can affect them. And we've also talked about overtrain, right? So they could be training too hard too fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, when I was training for my marathon, it was very typical for people to say that it takes about 4 months to go from zero couch potato to completing a marathon. Okay. And I didn't think 4 months was long enough.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, I feel like you would want to shoot for at least 6 months without, the whole overtraining aspect. I mean, is it doable? Yeah. But like, what's that demand, the physical demand that's on your body and the physiological demand that that's putting on your body to get that done in 4 months?
Yeah, but also, I mean, I would actually say it takes about a year.
Mhm.
It takes a year to do it in a healthy way. Okay. So if you run a marathon and you're not doing it in a healthy way, you can develop dysautonomia and issues like POTS. You can just develop it because you overwork a system and the system gets inflamed and degenerates. Would you agree with that?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the other symptoms that we deal with patients with POTS? Would be brain fog. They develop brain fog, right?
Mm.
Or they train too short, then they do a marathon, and then afterwards they have brain fog, right?
Yeah.
Tension problems. And now when we're doing something like with a patient and we're looking at their eye movements and we look at visual and auditory reaction times, and then we get a patient that has injury to the brain and we find that the reaction times go way up. Can you imagine having a 1 second reaction time when your visual system says you need to do this, but your body takes a whole second, like to take your foot off the gas when you're driving and hit the brake,
Yeah.
right? That's called an accident, okay? And there's too many accidents happening. So sometimes with our patients, we're going to have to say, well, I don't know. I don't think you should be driving, right? Not because you're getting dizzy or anything, just because you can't react fast enough to make sure that you can deviate your car from hitting another car or rear-ending them when you come up to a light, like a red light when it comes up real fast and someone stops real fast, then you're rear-ending them. So performance is important, And it's so important that it has to be planned the right way so that your brain and your body start to work together much, much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joey does a lot of the rehab in the office, and he gets to see how people react to the different brain-based exercise we have. And then when we're taking patients through, right? Have you developed like a sixth sense with patients, like that that,
I like to think so.
yeah,
I mean, I definitely feel the energy of the patients, and I can tell when they're getting too wiped out or too fatigued from, different types of treatments. But yeah, more so, even just with monitoring exercise with oxygen, I feel like I really have a good understanding of how that goes with the patients.
exactly. And how much you can push them and how much you have to bring them back,
Right.
right? So when we do exercise with oxygen, we're actually looking at their heart rate. And then we look at their O2 levels and we look at when they go in hypoxia, how much time it takes them to recover. That's kind of like the basics. But we get to a point where when the patients are going through and we know that their metabolism, right, has hit their threshold, the heart rate starts to drop when it should be going up, right? So you get a heavy heart rate drop.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I mean, it scares you at first. The first time I saw it, doing it, like learning, and I saw somebody drop to like 59 beats per minute. I was like, whoa, that was, and like hold
It
everything,
was
stop
huge.
pedaling,
It's huge, yeah.
kick them into high O2, and just kind of sit and wait for everything to recover. Because it does, it just completely fatigues on them, and you need to know when it's going to fatigue, and you need to know how to handle it when it fatigues.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, even one of our intensives that just started up 2 weeks ago and it just finished this week. At the start of it, her heart rate was going down like that, and her SpO2 was dropping and not recovering, and so you would just say fail switch. You would just have her stop pedaling altogether and wait for the SpO2 to start to go up, and then as a counterpart, you start to see the heart rate go back up.
Yeah.
And it's that, we talked about that pendulum that swings back and forth and is consistent, and it just is how it is.
Right.
And the flow of how that works is really just so accurate to that, I feel.
Yeah. But even now, when we're using goggles, we have a new goggle system from Neuroline, and it's a DX200 system. So we can actually watch in real time the eyes moving and doing what it should do. So as we start with patients, say their eye movements are totally off from the beginning, and in the beginning they start and they're just not doing what they should do. They're not coordinated. Then they coordinate, right? In the first 25 seconds of the exercise, they're doing fine. Then there's total breakdown too. It's the same thing with the eye movements, right?
Yeah.
So, the frontal cortex, it says, okay, do this eyes, and the muscles are doing it. And then
And
all of
how
a
long
sudden,
can they do it for,
oh yeah, exactly.
until it's just fatigue,
It's fatigued,
just
right?
white. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at when we're treating patients with dysautonomia and POTS, then you're really saying that when the patient starts working with us, they fatigue like immediately,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And then as they work with us, they'll fatigue after a longer period of time. Okay. But so we're strengthening the system, but it's not quite there yet. So with dysautonomia, we know we need fuel, right, from our digestive tract. We need oxygen from our lungs. We need to pump it through our body. And all those systems need enough energy to create that, make it happen.
And it's really fascinating when even just thinking about it in the sense of exercising, and I want to build larger and stronger muscles. I progressive overload. I go into it and I start really slow, and then the next week I add 5 pounds, and then the next week I add another 5 pounds, and then the following week I add another 5 pounds. And looking at the DX200 the other day, I had this exact same thought, and it's because as you go through the Smooth Pursuits trainings, it starts out at 10 hertz frequency, goes to 20, goes to 30, goes to 40. And it's just that progressive increase just by 10 hertz each time that makes such a difference in the rehabilitation process.
Well, they talk about chaos, right?
Mm.
When you want to work out. So, what would chaotic workout be? Which sounds weird, but it's true. That's a chaotic workout. So you want to do it at a different frequency and a different load, and it teaches the body more than doing the same frequency, the same load every time,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consistency is great, but consistency will harm you when you're trying to make progress.
Make progress. And so he's seeing it in the little muscles of the eye. They're the they're the smallest muscles, right? But we're seeing that in the smallest muscles of the eye. So when a system breaks down, essentially what you're saying is that it breaks down in the neurological input, it breaks down in the muscular issue of it, and it breaks down in the delivery of fuel,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, so they're the three essentials that we're looking at in the office. So, when someone says, well, I got a POTS diagnosis, okay, the first question is, what other diagnoses do you have, right?
Yeah, what's your past, history?
Which past history, right? So, like what's going on. And so we're finding that there's a lot of comorbidities to it. There's always a digestive issue.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then we do food sensitivities, and people have food sensitivities. Now, if you don't take away a food sensitivity causing inflammation, then what will we see?
So if you don't take away a sensitivity of food
If a
inflammation,
patient comes in, we do the food sensitivities, and we say you have a sensitivity to dairy and gluten.
very minimal change.
Very minimal change, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, in some cases, if any. I mean, and that's one of the biggest aspects of it is like,
Isn't that crazy?
and if we're not seeing it, then like we can't have you continue
Yeah, you
with the
can't.
program. It
Get the
just won't
test
work.
done, right? Get the test done. So you got to get the test done. So it smacks you in the back of the head every time. A patient comes in, we got a good program, they're going along, not seeing really great results. And they'll say, oh, well, I went to the party on Saturday and I had a whole pizza. And I was like, well, was it dairy? And I was like, of course it's dairy, but you ask them that. And yeah, when our kids that come in with oppositional disorders, right? They may not, like when they go to school or when they're at a friend's house, things like that, stay on their diet.
Mm.
And then the parents will immediately see that their mood changes real fast and they get angry and they throw things and stuff like that.
That's the most like visual, I would say, like that you see like right off the bat. Because some people come in, say a POTS patient, and they're they're not doing better, or they're doing minimally better because of they're still consuming dairy or gluten or something that they're sensitive to on their IgG test. And in comparison to a kid who has a sensitivity to dairy, you can see the fatigue still and the overall, you know, lower gradual improvement in the POTS patient, but you're not seeing that next level because of that. So that's how you're seeing how it's affecting them, how their IgG test is affecting them. But like with the defiance and everything like that, with the ADHD kids and ADD and different other things that we work with, you see it directly,
See it directly
quickly.
and quickly and quickly. Also, we talk about performance, right? We're talking about performance right now. So we're talking about performance. We're talking about the comorbidities with dysautonomia, but there's emotional comorbidities, right? We just touched on that. but there's also mental comorbidities. So we have people that are working, right? And then they can't multitask, or they get so much brain fog, they can't think, their memory goes, and things like that. So when we talk about performance, especially brain performance, then we're looking at your whole brain starting to dysfunction, right? And that's disheartening for everybody because they know it's happening. And then a patient will come in and say, well, my family's noticing now. So when the family starts noticing, then they're like, okay, I better do something about this because, you know, maybe it's taking me longer to drive home because I'm missing my turns and I don't know where to go. So they have to take care of their cognitive function also. So
Years ago, when I was dealing with brain fog, post-concussive, I would think so hard on things to the point where I was just getting migraines. And like, I didn't think that that was the reason to it. Like, I really didn't think that there was a correlation or that that would make sense. But I really was just exerting so much mental energy that I was just fatiguing myself to the point where I was just forcing headaches on myself. Does that make sense to you?
yeah, it does make sense to me. It does make sense to me.
It's crazy, like, when you think about it.
Or you can get aphasia from it, or aphasia is where you got that word in the back of your head, you just can't say it. So you're searching for another word that means the same thing so that you can put it in its place. And then there's a pause. And they're like, okay, does everybody notice that I'm pausing right now?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
huh. Or a person in your past that you can't think of their name. No, I've given up on that now. So, after my
What's his
stroke,
name or so and
yeah,
so.
so and so, yeah, I can remember the event. I can remember, certain aspects of it, but I just can't remember that name. Or I remember having a car accident and I had mild brain trauma. And my brother invited me over to his friend's house to watch a football game. And then I come in and I don't remember his friend's name. And I spent the whole first half of the game
Just calling him dude or
just
bro, buddy.
hey, you over there, and I'm sitting there and it's just like you said, you're thinking of it so hard you get your migraine headache from it. And I'm thinking I'm just getting really upset, right, that I can't remember it.
Finally, somebody in the room says it, and you're like,
And then all of a sudden
I
they
knew it the
score a
whole time.
touchdown and everybody's jumping up. And I look at him and I say, John. He goes, yeah, that's my name. What's the matter with you? So you got to remember things. So, with our patients, we kind of learn a lot. It's learn as you go. It's not a paint by numbers, that's for sure.
No, every picture is so different.
So food, we see it happen. If they don't do the food, if they do the food, we give them the suggestions, and they don't do what they should do. There's always that problem with the patients and the recovery, the way they fuel their body, the way their mind works. It all changes. It all changes.
Thank you for joining us on My POTS podcast. If you're looking for more support, visit us at hopebraincenter.com or follow our journey on TikTok, where we share daily insights and inspiration. Remember, healing is possible. I'm living proof. I'm Dr. Joseph Schneider, and I'll see you next time as we continue exploring paths to recovery.